Check me out.
Hey, podcast listening people. I hope that you know how grateful we are the fact that you're listening to this right now. We appreciate it more than you know. And do us this small favor. Before you leave today, please do not forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. And when you see us on social media, give us a shout. We love to hear from you guys. We love your feedback. And we are continuing to make this a great platform for you guys. I love the fact that we get to do this really niche platform where the guests we have on the show, they're here in your backyard, in the Mile High City and in Colorado, bringing you value, information, insight, resources, powerful stories, and I have an amazing show for you today. I'm so excited to share with you Cameron Brown, who speaks to audiences around the world on how to thrive in an ever-changing world. Technology is massively changing all of us. He delivers multi-sensory experiences on stage, blending education and storytelling videos and live music on a grand piano, which is awesome. He's been featured in the media in 7 different countries. His online videos have reached well over 1 million people in 195 countries, and he just returned from delivering the closing talk, TEDx talk, matter of fact, What Future Are We Creating, in Italy, which was really good. I'd highly suggest that you go give that a watch. And Cameron is just a massive emulation of positivity and awareness. And if you guys get even a small fraction of what I did from this podcast, your life is going to be impacted in a major way. And Cameron is doing amazing things. I love this guy. He's a really great dude, and you guys are going to enjoy today's show. Before we get there, real quick, if you're interested in partnering up with Mile High Mentors, sponsoring the show in one way or another, collaborating, it's something we're always interested in, looking forward to doing so, send us an email, milehighmentors@gmail.com, or you can just message us on social media wherever you find us, Mile High Mentors. And we look forward to seeing what we can do to impact the local community of entrepreneurs and help each other. We're here to help each other grow, right? That's why we're doing this. Also, real quick, if you sell products and services business to business, you probably realize LinkedIn is the place to be, but most people don't know how to use it effectively. So our partners over at Active Blogs have a free training just for you. Give it a watch, activeblogs.com/webinar. Again, activeblogs.com/webinar. And you can watch the free training on the missing links to LinkedIn success so you can effectively grow your business on social media platform like LinkedIn, the world's largest B2B social media platform. Okay, guys, without further ado, please welcome Cameron Brown to the Mile High Mentors podcast. Super excited that we get to do this. I've been looking forward to this for a while. How does the man from the land down under end up in the Mile High City?
Was that an
which isn't exactly down under?
Was that an attempt at an Australian accent just then to start with?
No. It just organically. You can't say down under without sounding Australian organically. Okay, that was a lie. I've been practicing in front of you.
I think you've been practicing it for the last few weeks, haven't you? I think if you just, I've told people one key way to talk Australian is just take the R's off of the end of everything, and it's down under versus down under. In a way.
Bro, why do you think I moved our first podcast that we had scheduled? I needed more time.
Exactly. You got to rehearse, man. You got to rehearse. You got to make me feel comfortable. I ended up here in Colorado. End of 2016, I left Australia. Sold everything that I own and embarked on a global venture around the world that took me 10 countries, 4 continents. And
where in Australia were you?
I'm in the outback Australia, man. It's a place on a farm near a place called Ceduna, Ceduna, for those of you playing at home. And it's about, I think it's 2,500, 3,000 people, about 9 hours drive from any main city. And luckily it was along the coastline though. We've got beautiful beaches where I was, but very much in a remote part of Australia. So south central coast it was. And yeah, it's I've spent the last, nearly 2 years now around the world, many different places, many different experiences, and showcasing how technology can be used to speed up the message that we have, speed up the impact that we have, our creativity, our innovation. And landed here, I wanted to move to the US. The goal was to move to the US and to be able to laser focus the multi-sensory keynotes that I do with the grand piano on stage. And Colorado had a few boxes that were ticked, and decided to give it a go here. And it's so far so good. So far so good.
Did you ultimately, like, at what point did you decide you wanted to ultimately land in the US?
It was only earlier this year. So I think it was February. Might have been February in this year, and I was living in Mexico at the time. I had no intention of coming to the US at that time. It was going to be, I'll live in probably a Central American country or somewhere where I could fly to America for the speaking engagements. And I remember talking to my sister one day, and she said, "Oh, would you ever move to Canada or the US?" And I thought, I don't think so. And then I started to foster my curiosity around that, and thought, well, if I did, what would it look like? And why would I move there, or why wouldn't I move there? And started playing around with it, and started to realize that was actually a really good move for the development of the company, development of of a career from a speaking standpoint. And so that became that's absolutely what I have to do now, because the thing that came out of that as well is it was around that time, and each country that I moved to over the last couple of years, I found myself questioning, in an empowering way, but questioning what's that next level of impact for me? What's the next level of impact for the company? What's the next level of impact that I can make in the world? And while it was amazing to have more than 1 million people see the videos over the past 18 months, and showcasing and doing storytelling videos in many different locations, creating music and all that kind of jazz, it was, well, the next phase is to really hone in on the multi-sensory keynotes that I deliver, and really inspire some quality people in the world to make a greater impact and challenge what's possible. So that's what kind of led to the decision to come here, and in the Colorado specifically. Well, the weather, closeness to nature, seem like like-minded people, people that are wanting to do good, that are health-minded, health-conscious, and it's all checked out so far.
So when you were in the outback in Australia, when you're growing up, I mean, you have a really big vision about how you want to impact the world, which is, I love it. Like, I love surrounding myself with people that think big like you. Just a side note. But
thanks.
Who are some of your mentors or influencers early on in your life, like before the age of 18?
I think about this not really regularly, because I didn't really go through a huge amount of growth until my 20s. And so I did, and I would say from a mentor point of view, my music teacher, Deb Richter, who I learned music from very early on. That was, without her, I wouldn't be where I am, because I wouldn't have the skills to be able to execute on what I'm able to execute now on stage with the music and through the creation of that, the songs that I write. So I'd say her. But yeah, I mean, there were people in my life, but I wouldn't really class them from a mentor point of view. I didn't really have an understanding of what that even was until my 20s. And then as 20s went on, people like Tony Robbins came into life, and other people that are lesser known that were within my coaching studies. And I learned a lot through them as well. People like Wayne Dyer from a spiritual standpoint, and how you can bring those together. There's been a lot of people since those younger years. But I will say one of the things that I look back, it was grade 12. I learned music in grade 12, and rather than playing piano in grade 12 and learning how to play that better, I decided to do music, do singing in terms of my music as the instrument that I chose. And so while I did the theory component in town at the school, the way that I had singing lessons was over the phone, because there wasn't a singing teacher in town. There wasn't a singing teacher within hours of where I was living. And so it was this thing called open access that we had back then. It was just this, dial-in phone, and we'd call to the guy that was 9 hours drive away in a place called Adelaide. And that was it. Singing lessons over the phone. We didn't have internet, wasn't good enough then. And so, that looking back on it, the realization of how technology can open us up to possibilities. So I wouldn't say it's a mentor as such as a specific example of what I now speak on.
It was more of a medium.
It was, yeah. It was.
Which was music. Music.
Yeah, it was a great
music though. Like what was it in your life that got you so interested in music?
Yeah, earlier on, it was simply Mum put us in piano lessons, and I enjoyed it. We had that earlier on as well, where there was a piano at my aunt's house in Brisbane in Australia, and I remember playing on that as a very, very young child as well. So I look back and realized there were some really nice positive reference points for how music was a good thing in my life earlier on. And so then when I went and played music and did music lessons, it went on from there. It wasn't until so I stopped music lessons after about 5 years of learning. I still remember I went back to class after having a lesson, and this kid wouldn't even. This is the thing. There are such small moments in our lives that can be defining moments in our lives, but non-existent in other people's lives. And it was this small moment, and it was nothing that he really said. He said it was just hey, he saw my sheet music, and he goes, well, is that song by this band? And it was like a cool band at the time. And I said, oh no, it's this. And it was not as cool a band as, as far as coolness goes in there. And I look back and go, yeah, I would have liked the other band now as well. But back then, that was what I was learning. And his face, it was just, that's not really cool, man. And I chose to make that mean that I wasn't cool, what I was learning wasn't cool, and I stopped playing and stopped lessons. I had been thinking about stopping that anyway because I didn't really like the theory component, but both of those together, I stopped for 2 years. And I only looked back at this over the past couple of years and realized that the correlation between the challenging years of my life, the two of the most challenging years of my life, were the 2 years that I didn't play music. And it was a realization that I lost myself in.
Well, what do you mean by challenging?
Challenging, suicidal, absolutely. I look back and I wasn't diagnosed because I didn't go to see anybody, but depressed and all of that. So absolutely, I went through a really challenging time of feeling like I didn't fit in, feeling like I didn't belong anywhere, feeling like I didn't matter, and that I just didn't know where my place was in this world. And then when I came back, it was 2 years later. I remember walking past the piano one day and just looked to the right, thought, I'll give that another go. And I went and sat down and started playing again. But I started playing completely by ear only and started writing my own music very soon after that. And that's been 17 or so years now of writing music, and 250, something like that, 250 songs or so that I've written. It's reached millions of people. And I look back to that time and it's a constant reinforcement that if you have lost yourself or have found yourself in feeling like you don't belong or don't fit in or feel like you're not worth it, anything like that, then it's an opportunity for you to find what that is for you. For me, it's music, and then it's expanded out into development of others and helping people to solve their challenges. It's definitely helped me solve my challenges, and I love that I get to bring that on stage now into the keynotes that I deliver around emotional intelligence and high performance and creativity and sustainability and all those areas now that I have spent many years perfecting it and refining my skills in those areas. I had no idea that it was going to happen there.
Let me sorry to interrupt you, but it's really fascinating to me, given my own experiences, that one person's opinion impacted your perception on something that you
entire existence.
that
entire
much.
existence. Yeah, entire existence.
Dude. Well,
And this is what happens. I think this is really good that you bring this up, and I'm more than happy to share, because it's in the understanding of what happened and how I solved it and how I was able to overcome that people can learn from and grow through.
Well, so many people get hung up on the opinions of others and allow that to impact what they're really passionate about. And if you're not pursuing, like you weren't doing what you're passionate about, I went through a 3-year period of massive depression, anxiety, fear, like hell, living in hell for a period of time. I've talked about this before, but it was because I was not pursuing I was not living to my fullest capabilities. Yeah. Which it's so like you had that same thing happen, but go ahead. Yeah. Expand on that.
Yeah. It's a great example of being so far off track, and often people will, often people's biggest breakthroughs come directly after their biggest breakdowns. And the reason for that is because they're not listening. They're not listening to the things along the way that were showing them that they were off track. And it took for a massive proverbial slap across the face to actually go, you know what? I'm so far off track, and then I have to come back. But what happens in our lives is that it's a single moment. And this is when I'm coaching, and I don't care who it is, usually then when they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, there's a moment that happened when we're going through a breakthrough day together to help them really step into that next level of excellence. There is a moment that happened, often in their childhood, one single moment that then dictated their entire existence following that. And the reason why this happens is that, let's say somebody in this, or let's say in this example, it was that what I'm learning isn't cool. So that means then that I don't fit in. Well, I don't fit in with my classmate. So I don't fit in with my class. So I don't fit in with this school. So I don't fit in anywhere. And what I've just done is I've generalized outward from one single moment. And this is what's the amount of times where this has happened within people when I'm coaching them, where it's been a single moment where that somebody has broken their trust as a kid, for example, whether they were abused physically, sexually, verbally, psychologically, whatever the thing was, or feeling abandoned by their family or by friends, or feeling like they were bullied by somebody at school or people at school, whatever the situation was, it then expanded out from I can't trust that person to I can't trust, say, my family, to I can't trust anybody in my community, to I can't trust anybody. And the thing is that if you're not consciously understanding where these patterns have come from, all of that happened goes down underneath the surface. And all you see it as is, I find it really hard to trust people. I find it really hard to trust anyone. Notice the generalization, anyone. Yeah? And that's because of a single moment usually that has happened that has then expanded out over time because you've found reference points for how that's true and found reference points for how the opposite is not true and distorted your view of the world. For example, there could be somebody who did something really good and could be trusted. And inside your mind, because you've got the belief that, I can't trust anybody, then you go, she or he's just saying that because they want something. And so they've just distorted that person, even though they might have had a pure intention. Yeah? I
feel like this happens in romantic relationships a lot.
Totally.
Too. I mean, all
romantic relationships, business relationships. People think, people are going to take advantage of me in business. And all of a sudden they have all kinds of challenges in having any kind of respect or trusting relationships. And that, depth of relationship is what creates opportunities. Without that, there's no trust. And without the trust, there's no opportunities, right? And you wonder why there's struggles in business. So usually any surface level challenge that's going on, there's a deep-rooted unconscious behavioral challenge that's going on underneath the surface.
And trust is that thing. That's the thing that you focus on.
It's often something that comes up for people. Others, there's usually some form of trust. Some form of trust that's been broken. Like I said, whether it's abuse, whether it's somebody that's bullied somebody, whether it's somebody who feels abandoned from their family, there's an element of trust that's been broken there. Yeah. And like I said, when we're talking from a relationship standpoint, and those of you having listened to this, whether it's your personal relationships, business relationships, the end of the day, life is about relationships. Life is all about relationships. Business is all about relationships. If you don't have that, you're not creating the very thing that makes us human, which is the ability to connect with one another. And that's a pretty challenging place to be if you're feeling all alone. I think there's some studies coming out now. I only read this morning with people who are, I think it's over 65. It's like smoking. Don't quote me on this, but I just remember seeing this. It's like smoking some crazy amount of cigarettes every single day. That's the impact that loneliness has on your health, and the longevity of your life. So that's it's something to, and I'm glad that we've talked about this, because having that sense of connection is we're living in a world right now where we are more connected than ever before, and yet so many people are feeling more alone than ever before. And there's a reason for that. It's if I can utilize social media to keep my distance from people, then it means I still get the connection, but I don't get have the chance of being hurt. And so I'm not going to be vulnerable in any situation. I'll put my highlights reel up on Facebook or Instagram. I'll make it look like everything's all well and good. And I've had this. People reach out to me before where it looks like they're amazing, doing amazingly well online. And then they reach out with a message to me personally because they know the work that I do. And so I'm really, really struggling. And that's, if people aren't willing to be vulnerable, then they're missing out on what I learned early on is the ultimate form of courage, is the ability and willingness to be vulnerable, even in the face of anything that's going to happen as a result of being vulnerable.
And eating your ego in order to take that first step to reach out. Right. I think that's probably the biggest challenge for most people. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people's worth is tied up in their ego, is tied up. And so if my worth is based on external approval, which is what a lot of what we've been talking so far, if my worth is based on external approval, there's no way that I'm going to let my guard down.
Right.
Because
it's like this constant feedback loop.
Exactly. And this is what's happening. People, we're building, creating a whole generation. And this isn't just with kids either, by the way. This is happening in adult populations. So X's and boomers, you think you're immune to this? No way. This is happening with you as well. If the need for likes, for comments, for shares, for the constant external validation, social media is just one form of that. The other is in the form of live and in-person feedback, a feedback loop. And if I need that external validation to know that I am enough, to know that I belong, then I'm going to sacrifice my own self. I'm going to sacrifice what I think, and we go right back to the piano incident, right back to what I believe other people think is cool, and sacrifice who I really am. And in the process, people lose themselves. And
Do you think our monkey brains are just too, like, we're still slow? Like, technology has progressed so rapidly 10 years even. We are constantly on social media. My mom is on Facebook every day posting stuff. And we're more connected than ever. But I talk to so many of my peers who feel so alone and scared about the direction we're going. And I feel like we're just having a lag, right, between all this technology and let me ask you this. Do you think technology will catch up to the point where we can build those bonds that are still tangible, but still be doing it through technology?
As in building those relationships with people like things like robots, or building the relationships with people specifically?
People specifically, but I mean, AI is going to catch up to the point where it's going to be completely indistinguishable. So
it's not far away, and already there are companion robots that are being.
I just watched Ex Machina. Have you watched that movie?
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
Oh, so crazy. But I just watched that this last weekend, and it's like that's here, like that's almost here. I guarantee there's probably robots like that in a basement somewhere.
Yeah, there are more and more from a companion point of view with elderly people. They're being tested out to from a companion standpoint, and so that to help reduce loneliness. Here's the way I look at it: is that technology isn't the problem; it's pointing to it, and it's magnifying it. that if unconsciously we believe we're not enough, or we believe that we are alone or feel lonely, then social media, other technology, whatever comes next, AI, whatever comes after that, is going to speed up and magnify that. This is why I'm both optimistic and a little hesitant, I'd say, about the future as well, is that the way that most people are using it right now is they haven't developed the emotional intelligence to be able to utilize it effectively and to be able to evolve at a rate that allows you to stay caught up with it.
So hold on, before you move on from that point, how do people build that emotional intelligence in the current state that we're in right now? What's your suggestion on that?
I mean, at the end of the day, man, emotional intelligence is pretty straightforward. You understand and have awareness around why you do what you do, and you have techniques and tools and resources and strategies to do something about it. Simple. The first part is having the awareness first and foremost, which is, this comes back to, I mean, it should be a compulsory subject in schools. To me, it's absolutely criminal that it's not. We're putting new technologies into the hands of people that don't understand why they're getting addicted to these technologies. That is insanity, man. It is freaking insane. But that's what's happening. And so it makes perfect sense that we're seeing suicide rates increase in younger kids. It makes perfect sense that there is an increase of depression and anxiety and lower levels of empathy, because we're giving them these technologies that they don't know how to utilize in a way that is actually allowing them to enhance who they already are, rather than try to replace something that they don't even know is missing within them just yet. Yeah? And they're just trying to search and trying to find a way to find themselves. And they do that by getting the validation from external rather than actually looking internally. So that's but here's the thing, that I didn't get any emotional intelligence training when I was in school. Nothing.
Nobody did.
None of it. No, I only learned it in my 20s, and that was only because I seeked it out. So it's got to become mainstream in education systems, is absolutely vital. But the key is I mean, read, take courses, read books, listen to audio, podcasts, these kinds of things. Understand why it is that I do what I do. Learn how to ask more powerful questions. Learn how to be curious and unpack that. Work with somebody, whether it's a coach or a workshop or some form of mentorship. Find those places where you can learn how to uncover what really played out, because, sometimes you can't work it out on your own. I couldn't work it out on my own. I went through a huge amount of trainings that a lot of money, that I invested. But I thought, well, this is investing in myself, and this is investing in my future, and that is the best investment that I've ever made, because it's allowed me to still now, years later, and I continue investing in myself, but even those patterns back then still continue to pay dividends going forward. So learning and understanding why it is that I experience what I experience, but then having the tools to do something about it, because awareness on its own can lead to even more pain. Because then you realize, well, I know why I do what I do, and I'm still not doing anything about it. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And all of a sudden it feeds the exact pattern that was keeping you stuck in the first place. Leads to even more pain. I'm
sure there's probably still things that you feel that way about now. Like, oh, I'm aware of this, but why the hell am I still doing this? Like,
yeah, earlier this year, it was my health and well-being. I wasn't in great shape at the end of last year. I was very exhausted as well, because it was a massive year, and I knew, right, this isn't sustainable, dude. We've got to make some changes here. And as I've grown in that area, I'm now in the best shape that I've ever been in by far, and feel like I'm only just getting started with that. But at the start of the year, that absolutely wasn't there. There were certain strategies that I had to learn how to put into place to ensure that when I felt the urge, because I don't drink alcohol, there's no drugs, there's no energy drinks, there's no coffee. So I eliminated a lot of those things that some people would normally be addicted to. I took all notifications off my phone, so that I was only getting notified when I was wanting to be notified, because otherwise there's addictive qualities that happen there as well. So I had to put things and learn how to put things in place so that when that craving, for example, came up when I was under pressure or very stressed, and the natural thing for me to do would be to go and eat something crap that wasn't in alignment with what I wanted to eat, and then still be vegan because I eat a vegan diet, but it'd be processed stuff. Then it was about, well, what do I need to put in place to be able to be then conscious when I'm about to make that decision? I think this is the really important thing. those of you tuning into this, when you can start to become conscious of what decision you're about to make rather than reflective about, I made that decision again. When you can be looking at it and then go, this is one of those moments. Now, okay, I have these techniques to do something about it. For me, when I was living in Mexico City at the time, whenever I had a craving, I thought, all right, make a green smoothie first, and if I still feel like it afterwards, rock on, have whatever you want, man, go for it. So it was still not limiting myself. I could do whatever I wanted, but each time when I'd have the green smoothie, I wouldn't feel like the other stuff.
Well, so for you, like you said, you don't drink. You don't.
It's been nearly 8 years now since any alcohol.
Interesting. Yeah. And no drugs, no caffeine. Like you don't do coffee or anything like that.
Yeah, it was the same time. So February 1st, 2011.
You're a madman. You're a madman.
Why you'd be crazy how much energy I've still got, man. Come on.
No, I'm sure. I've taken sabbaticals from coffee, caffeine, everything. Like actually, it's funny we're talking about this right now. Every month, or for 1 month out of every year, I completely stop. No alcohol and nothing bad or anything like that. But I'm kind of like debating, like, should I just quit drinking altogether? I'm so freaking productive.
Yeah.
Just that one sneaky glass of wine at the end of the day. But what was it for you? Like, what was that turning point that made you say, nope, no more in my life?
Yeah, the turning point for me, it was only a month to begin with as well. So I said, right, I'm going to go for that month, and I challenged other people to give up something that they had been wanting to give up as well, because there was 3 months into the coaching business that I had started. I thought, right, I'm going to lead by example around this. I had been drinking too much, way too much, and so I said, I'm going to give that up. Other people jumped on board with that, so I said, I'll go vegan for the month as well. Thought I better lead this ship, and so I did both of those things, and I still remember. I moved that month. So it must have been March 1st. I moved all of my stuff over to a place called Melbourne from Adelaide. It's like an 8-9 hour drive. I had my trailer, my car, my dog, everything. All of my life was in this, and I moved it all myself across the state. And I thought, you know what? When I get to this place and I've unpacked everything, I had 2/3 of a bottle of Johnny Walker left, Scotch. And I thought, you know what, when you get there, man, and you've unpacked it all, you're really going to deserve this. And so I still remember I had the bottle on this bar fridge that was the only fridge that I had at the time, this little bar fridge, and I'd unpacked it. It was like 9 o'clock at night. And I thought to myself, I don't actually feel like it. And I made I still remember exactly where I was. I could take you to the exact location in this place. I looked at it and I thought, until I feel like it for the right reasons, I'm not going to do it again. And so I'm not against drinking again. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm not, there's only been one time that I felt like it, and it wasn't for the right reasons. So so that's the only time. And I kept bottle of Johnny Walker.
What was her name?
Yeah, so totally with that. Yes, you got that in one hit, man. Yeah. But I kept that bottle with me up until I got rid of everything in late 2016. So I had it with me for 5. Everywhere I moved, I took it and had it with me in the bottle in the cupboard to show how much I'd grown, to show how this is my identity now. It's not that anymore, and it was just a constant reference point for how I have the ability to change anything that I want in my life if I'm committed enough.
But then you gave up that vice and started consuming like junk food. Was that your vice after that? Like sweets? Was that where you're trying to?
Yeah, there was. I mean, at the end of last year, I would see myself as out of shape, even though it wasn't like dire or anything like that. But I look and go, dude, you got to step up in this area. By my standards, it wasn't nearly good enough. But yeah, I was still okay. But yeah, I would eat just processed vegan food that you can get from supermarkets and stuff, grocery stores and things like that. Eating more than what I normally would or normally should in terms of the amount of caloric intake that I should have. So yeah, that was that. Some sweets, but more so savory stuff. And yeah, that was a way out. And I knew that for a period of time. I thought this is one area that is a way out at the moment, where normally it would be alcohol or drugs or whatever, or coffee or whatever anybody else does. And so now feeling like I've got control over that, is a really empowering thing. And I remember back, I think it might have been 2015, and I was reading this book, great book for those of you tuning in. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and in it, so I was listening to the audiobook, and I remember him saying, and I paraphrase this, but it was something along the lines of, it was in the start of the book, are you okay with things going well in your life? And I'm walking my dog on, yeah, come on. I'm pumping myself up. And then he dropped this bombshell. He said, are you okay with things going well in every area of your life? And I just paused for a moment, and I wanted to say yes, but deep down, the answer was no. The answer was no. And what he talks about is we have this limit that we have on ourselves unconsciously that we believe we're worthy of. And the moment we exceed that in some area of our life, we'll usually compensate for a detrimental thing in another area of our lives. This is why people either drink or food or whatever other addictions there are. Yes, there's certain addictive qualities in things like smoking and other things like that in terms of the actual chemical side of things, but a huge amount of this is behavioral. A huge amount of it's behavioral. If you don't feel like you're worthy of something, of success in a specific area, this is why you see downfall of a lot of celebrities, is they're smashing it in their career and their relationships are absolutely in tatters. And they did a study in that. There was something like 60 or 70% of people that are extremely successful in their careers from a CEO point of view had miserable relationships in the study they did. So that's an example of that. So that I've had that in my mind over the past few years now of how can I become a person that has their shit together in every area of their life. And that's been an amazing experience.
This is so interesting that you're going down this path, because this is probably the 5th podcast back to back that we've started this theme. And again, I think this is not new, but much more profound, emerging thought process for entrepreneurs, for successful business leaders, that success is not truly just financial and career success anymore, which is, I think, was much more of an emphasis on the boomer generation and even the Xer generation, right? Boomers and Xers, right? Yeah, those are the two. Yeah. But you're a millennial, aren't you?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So
on the border. I'm on the border.
You're right on the border. Whatever, man. It doesn't matter. It's every generation looks down at the generation before them and is like, oh, look at those people. Like, they're not accomplishing near. But this theme that constantly keeps coming up in all these podcasts we've been doing is really becoming a well-rounded person. Health, wellness, relationships, and financial career success. Where it used to be like financial, get a good job, work 9 to 5, get a retirement fund, and then that's it. Go die.
And I think the reason why that's becoming unraveled is we look at people of the generation before us, and I don't want that. You guys are unhappy. You guys are miserable. Why would I do that? And so then it becomes, well, what do I do instead? And I think that's where we're at right now is, well, what is that instead thing? Yes, there's a well-roundedness about it, but how do I actually accomplish that? How do I do that? And this is where the unconscious beliefs come in again, is that I'm going to succeed and I'm succeeding here and I'm doing really well. And then I screw up this area. I do some kind of sabotaging thing to screw it up. It's like, why did I do that? It's because the unconscious stuff's going on that you've got a level you believe you are unconsciously worthy of. And the moment that you exceed that is the moment you either have to step up to your new level of thinking to allow yourself to function at that area, which is where constant and never-ending improvement comes in, or you will find some way of screwing it up. And those of you listening to this, you will remember a time where you've been absolutely on fire and then you did something to screw it up. And why did I do that? Why did I do that? But this is why it's playing out. You can either solve the surface level challenge and say, oh, I've got to set more goals. I've got to really push to make this happen. Or you can get to the core as to why it's not happening in the first place, overcome that, then move forward because then all of a sudden, all of your energy is moving. And the way I see it is becoming your own best friend. The moment you become genuinely your own best friend, you spend far too much time with your own self not to enjoy your own company, right? The thing is that a lot of people are living with their own worst enemy. And if you think about it, just from a friendship, imagine if like the internal self, the self that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, that internal voice that's saying you can't do it, you're not good enough, you don't belong here, your products aren't good enough, whatever the internal baggage that you've got that you're carrying around. You think about it for a moment. If you were spending time with that person and that person was an external person to you, you'd be going, man, I got to get myself out of this. Yeah. Yet a lot of us deal with that on a day-to-day basis and don't look inward to really overcome that. That is a massive, massive waste of energy.
And we go back to the social media era that we live in and fear of missing out and seeing people on social media posting, like going to parties. And this was a big internal conflict that I had for a while myself. Like, holy shit, I'm so depressed. Everyone's having more fun than I am.
Yeah.
But I think there's massive power in being able to become your own best friend. I love that you said that.
Oh, dude, it's so freaking
like we don't know as a society how to be alone anymore.
Yeah, that's true. So the TEDx talk I delivered in Rome, I talked about a study in that, and there was a study done. They did some other stimuli as well, but one of them was they could choose to sit in a room alone for 15 minutes or administer themselves with an electric shock. And every single one before the study said, I would pay money to avoid being shocked with electricity. 67% of men, 25% of women chose to shock themselves before the 15 minutes was up. Yeah, it just shows it. This isn't just social media. Social media technology is just pointing to the problem that's going on here. As you mentioned, we're not okay being alone. Why are we not okay being alone? Because we're not okay with our own thoughts. And if we're not okay with our own thoughts, then I'm going to do anything to fill that space. I'm going to scroll through the feed, and all of a sudden, I've got something in my hands that can take me away from the pain that I have to experience when I'm alone, and I can do that ongoing, consistently. I'm going to be on here, and I'm going to get very, very, very addicted because the dopamine hit that I can get from that happens because I don't know how to get it met myself. I don't know how to get it met from being my own best friend. I don't know how to get it met from experiencing the things that I really want to experience. One of the best ways to overcome any addiction is to have an alternative available to you, and ultimately to have multiple alternatives available to you. Then all of a sudden you've got multiple ways to get your human emotional needs met. Why would you need anything else?
And what do you mean by that? What are some of those things you're referring to?
Yeah, so this comes back to the experience of feeling like you belong, the experience of love for self, for others, for the planet, the experience of feeling like you are born here to do something great can be another one. So this comes back, and a great way to look at this as well, you go back to emotional needs. Tony Robbins is a great example of this. The 6 core needs: certainty, variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution. There's 6 core needs there that play out. That's a big one within social media as well. If you're not able to get those needs met internally first and foremost, then you're going to need to get them from somewhere. And social media just happens to be a really quick way to get those met. So this comes back to, again, if you're your own best friend, you're able to nail all of those needs internally, and then everything external just becomes an added bonus. You don't need it. And this is a beautiful thing about relationships. If any of you are tuning in that you're in business, this is your ability to give freely without expectation, knowing that you're going to get taken care of in some way, shape, or form. That is such an attractive way to do business. When you're building relationships and you're genuinely, there's nothing that you need from this person. Yeah, nothing that you need. I had a call today with a guy, and we were having a conversation, and I knew that he wasn't going to be a client of mine, but there was some severe things that he was needing help with. And so I knew straight up, I'm probably not going to get anything from this relationship. I'm just going to give tons of value here because he's a couple of years into business. All right, I'm just here to serve right now. I know that I'm going to get taken care of in somewhere, but just for these next 20 minutes, I'm going to give him some really, really valuable things that helped me earlier on in my career. And I just gave. And that was it. We didn't end up talking about me whatsoever, not a single part. And that was the end of the conversation. And he sent a message saying thank you. But that wasn't the purpose of getting any thank yous or anything. It was simply, I have the ability to give freely right now, and I'm going to do that because I have the ability to do that. I don't need anything from that.
I guarantee that with that type of mindset, I've experienced this time and time again.
Yep.
6 months down the road, he may refer someone who will do business to you, or it's just good. It's just it's just good sense. Like, give without expectation. And that, again, that goes back to the alternatives of what we've seen with our parent generation, where it was give, where, hey, we're a little expectation here. Like, what do I get in return for doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I see that with majority of the population like to think they're givers in terms of, and there's a book by Adam Grant, Givers, Matchers and Takers. Those who give freely, those who say, hey, I'll match you and give you this and I'll get you this in return. And those who will suck the absolute life out of you in terms of takers. Great book as well. Highly recommend grabbing a copy of that.
You said Adam Grant?
Adam Grant, Grant. Yep. And Give and Take is the book. And the people like to think, and I've had enough meetings now. I've spoken. I have thousands and thousands of connections that I use through LinkedIn. I've spoken with many of those actual conversations, and most people like to think they're givers, but are really matchers. They really, at the end of the day, they do need something from that to continue the relationship. So that, again, it's been the exact opposite for me in learning how to do that. And that's come from full circle, becoming my own best friend, because the moment you're able to be your own best friend is the moment you can give freely. Because anything that somebody does to me, if they tear me down, if they say that I'm not good enough or whatever the hell they want to say, doesn't matter. I'm my own best friend. I've got everything I need. So nothing is taken away from me, which allows me to be vulnerable in any situation. Because again, anything that anyone says externally doesn't diminish my self-worth. Because
I just see Cameron holding his own hand, skipping down the streets of
Dude, I can't wait to do that. It is like that, though. I freaking love myself. And if you saw me behind closed doors, it is no different. And here's the thing. This is about when you're your own worst enemy, it becomes a person who's their own best friend celebrates their successes when they're up and supports themselves when they're down. So it's not about just saying you're never going to experience a challenge again because you're your own best friend, and all roses are going to grow out of your ass. It's yeah, we went there, man. Rock on. It's not about that. There is going to be challenges. It's about you becoming the person you need to be to deal with the challenges as they arise. Right? Your ability to do that is your ability to support yourself when you're down. But the way that a lot of people it happens when you're your own worst enemy is you kick yourself when you're down, and when you're up, you say it's not going to last. Yeah, and that again becomes wasted energy because you're wasting energy at the top rather than going, let's continue on and let's continue to tweak and become even better. You're pulling yourself back down to where you believe you're worthy of, and when you're down, you're putting even more negative energy into it. See, told you weren't worth it. See, it was never going to work in the first place. See, you weren't cut out for it. And that's another massive amount of energy that could be better spent on, if you're your own best friend, you're supporting yourself when you're there. Yeah, it's challenging still, but you've got your own back. And that's absolutely critical.
My fear for people listening right now is, yeah, I've heard that spiel before. Be a good person, give back, love yourself, all that good stuff. Yeah. Realistically, how can a 16, 17, 18-year-old, they don't have money to go spend on a life coach or anything like that. Like, what are the first steps towards self-awareness, towards self-love, and in really breaking that cycle, that mental, that feedback loop of, just getting endorphin through not like empty stuff.
Yeah.
So endorphin rush through empty stuff.
There's two things I want to give. First up is some stuff that you can actually go and do, but the other is an actual strategy that if you just do this one thing alone, it could propel you in terms of your future. So the first up is, you might not have the money, the finances to be able to go and get an actual coach, for example, or maybe even to go to an intensive in terms of a seminar. Audiobooks, books, podcasts. Surround yourself with quality people. That doesn't cost anything. There's small fee, podcasts, and surrounding yourself with people doesn't cost anything. Then audiobooks, books, still not that expensive. You can still put that money towards that rather than going out on the weekend and getting yourself written off. Put some of that money towards actually developing yourself. That's what I started to do earlier on, and it started to make that shift towards a better life. You've just got to be willing to commit to doing stuff that your other people aren't doing. But yeah, surround yourself with people that you'd like to be exposed to in the future, and continue to be inspired by. So that, again, those pieces you can do. Become resourceful in how you go about that. But have conversations with quality people. Again, that doesn't cost anything. Just a phone call, right? And or a meeting in person. So that first and foremost. And then the strategy that I want to give is the strategy that I call reference points. So if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling not good enough, if you're feeling like you don't belong or can't trust people, whatever the BS story that you've told yourself, the reason that you've got that story is because you've got a stack of reference points showing how that's true, right? So what you need to be doing is building a new stack. A stack that actually supports your success, a stack that is in the direction of where you're wanting to go. So reference points, it becomes, this, actually, I'll give an example of the conversation that I had this morning, that guy, yeah? I got off the phone to that. Now, I could have easily gone, that was a good call. I feel good. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, that's a nice way to feel good, but you haven't really capitalized on that experience just then. Instead, you lock in reference points. And for me, my reference point stack is right here in terms of positives. So I'm stacking these on. Dude, you know so much. You just served the hell out of that guy. You absolutely smashed it, gave him something that allows him to now move forward with something that he didn't have before. How amazing is it that I've got this at this younger age? Man, I've got such a responsibility to make an even greater impact. I wonder what that greater impact is going to be. So I've just stacked, just from one conversation, I've just stacked like 5, 10 reference points on top of each other when somebody else might not have stacked any. And so all of a sudden, this is where it becomes, when it becomes something around, am I good enough? To the point where you know you're good enough. There's a big gap in between. And as long as there's a gap, there's a good chance that when you're under pressure, you're going to revert back to the pattern that you're most comfortable with, the pattern you've been living with for years, the pattern that is, I'm not good enough, rather than I am. So you can be doing all the positive self-talk you like. That's not going to cut it, right? Locking these reference points in, do that when it happens, do that at the end of the day, every day. At the end of the day, I talk to myself out loud what I loved about today. What did I achieve? What did I smash? What did I do that was awesome? Yeah, I'm locking in reference points again and again and again. Now, for those of you who want to actually get a real world example of this, go and listen to Kevin Hart's interviews, the comedian. Go and listen to the interviews that he has. Now, I'm not saying go and do public reinforcement reference points like he does, because he's going to town when he's talking about how good he is and all of that kind of stuff.
His book is really great.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
Yeah. The what's it called?
Something funny. I don't know.
Put it in the show notes. So yeah, it's I couldn't make this up. That's it. I couldn't make this up. I think
was that it?
I'm pretty sure. I couldn't make this up, or something like that. If it's the same book that we're talking about.
Audible decided to stop working on me, so.
All right, yeah.
Go ahead, continue on your.
I'm pretty sure that's it. But he even in that
can't
book,
make this up.
I can't make this up. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, you're close enough. We'll
close enough. Rock on. So he locked. If you want a real world example of this, of what you should be doing privately, because this, for me and us as a general population, you do this privately. Because by doing it privately, you're locking in a massive amount of reference points. No one has to know about it, but you're talking yourself up. You're talking yourself up like crazy, because in doing so, I don't need anybody else to do it. I don't need to know from anyone else that I'm good enough, because I already have locked in a mass amount of reference points every single day about how I'm kicking ass.
Eventually it is as if somebody else is doing it for you. That's how powerful the brain is, right? Like
Absolutely.
that goes back to like the think and grow rich concept. If you can dream it, you can literally achieve it. You just have to be able to believe it yourself and visualize it. So
yeah, it becomes at a point with these reference points. The reason why it is so important to do this, especially when you're going through you're trying to implement a new ritual into your life, a new habit into your life, whether that's a psychological habit or a physical habit, whatever the thing is that you're looking to do. As I mentioned, there's that gap between when you're doing something and trying to change something to when you're actually living and breathing it. And it's a difference between this is what I do versus this is who I am. And when you can get to, this is why the reference points are so important. You lock those reference points in again and again and again and again and again until it becomes who I am, where it would become weird not to go to the gym. It would feel weird not to talk myself up. It would feel weird to say that I don't belong somewhere. It's like, of course I belong. Yeah. I am the belonging. Like it is who I am versus what I do. And then you continue to lock in reference points after that.
Now again, by reference points, you mean I'm fit, I'm an intelligent human. I'm going to make $500,000 this year, whatever those reference points
so this is an interesting distinction. So those things that you just mentioned some of those were, but others, they're future reference points that you're talking about. We're talking about shit that you are actually doing right now and things that you are actually implementing right now that you've actually done. So let's say I've got a gym session this afternoon. I'm going to the gym about 10 hours a week right now. It's freaking awesome. And when I'm there, it's while I'm there. So we got legs today. I know my ass is going to get kicked. Right? It's a killer session.
You have a trainer, like a personal trainer?
Yeah. They're group classes. It's an amazing. For those of you, here's a shout out to Awaken Gym, gymnastics based gym, body weights. It is incredible in Denver. And so, yeah, absolutely amazing place. It's something that it's a great community, and highly recommend anyone wanting to check that out, go and check that out. Not affiliated anyway, just as a side note. But yeah, I absolutely love it there. But there...
Cameron's making a commission on the back end, guys.
Don't
believe a word he's saying.
Yeah. Please click on my affiliate link in the show notes. I love it. So I'll go there, and let's say I've just done a set of these crazy one-legged squats or whatever that has to be done, whatever she puts us through today. After that, I've gone, oh, yeah, you did that, man. You felt weak and you still smashed through it. How much stronger are you? And I for me, I find talking in third person just works better for me. Sometimes I talk in first person, but other times I'm talking in third person. For those who are tuning in, it might be different for you. Just do whatever works best for you. There's no rules around this. It's whatever. It's going to allow you to rock your own world, right? And so it becomes that kind of conversation. Oh, I'm feeling really strong. I've got my shirt off at home. Dude, you got guns, man. You got guns. And that's different to how it was before. So realizing, man, I've gone through so much growth this year. Imagine where it's going to be in 3 months' time. Imagine where it's going to be in 6 months' time. You are absolutely killing it right now. So it's present stuff. It's stuff that I've actually done, because it's not wishful thinking then. It's active doing. Yeah.
And that could be as small as, oh, you didn't take that drink today. You didn't smoke that cigarette. You didn't.
Yeah. You chose, dude, you chose. You had let's use this. You had the craving for a cigarette. You had the craving for that today, and you chose to go and get a glass of water instead. And you drank that glass of water. It felt good. It felt right, because I was doing something that was in alignment with who I'm wanting to become. How good is that? That I wouldn't have done last week. Dude, that's awesome. Keep doing that. And that's a reference point right there for how I have just shifted my identity before it's become my identity. Yeah? It's that gap that we're filling, that most people fall off the wagon. This is why New Year's resolutions never work, right? Barely ever work. It's because they're continuing to repeat the same stuff.
And they
they'd
talk
always
about it once a year. They talk
exactly. But it's the same when people jump back on the wagon, and whether it's health or whether it's well-being or whether it's business growth, whatever the thing is that you're looking to do. There's from a habit point of view, they talk about it taking a month to build in a habit. You can shorten that period by locking in reference points every single moment that you get. And you do that for the rest of your life. Do it for the rest of your life. Even after this amount of time of doing this and working in my own business and running a company for 6-7 years or whatever it's been now, and teaching people how to do this full time, I'm still doing that every single day, and I will be for the rest of my life, because I know that's what builds momentum. I know that's what builds the next level of identity for myself, which allows me to continue to stepping up to the new levels of excellence rather than succumbing to my current limits that I have. Because everyone has limits. Everyone has limits. Know that there is always another level. There will always be another level. The moment you think you've arrived, I remember a mentor saying once, the moment you think you've arrived is the moment you're in for a very big fall. I love that. I love it.
Even the tippy top, Bill Gates.
Totally.
Warren Buffett.
Because the world's constantly changing. If you're not constantly changing with the world, then you're falling behind. And so constant change is going to happen at an even more rapid rate. Your ability to continue to do this and step up to new levels of excellence is your ability to continue to evolve and adapt to change, which is one of the most, if not the most valuable skill in business right now. Because one thing that is going to become even more impactful over time is the ability to create that change, the ability to adapt to that change. Because we think that technology has changed so many things over the last 10 years. We have seen nothing yet. Not even close to anything yet. The amount and rate of change that is going to come, if you're not able to adapt to that change, you're going to get left behind. You're going to feel inadequate. You're going to feel like you're unable to keep up. And like I said, I think it's a good way to...
A lot of people don't feel that way now, even already. Yeah.
You wait till what's coming. Right. You wait till what's coming, right? So you got to be thinking years ahead. How am I going? For me personally, this is the way that I look at it. Again, because you're your own best friend, it allows you to spend time thinking about what is next, what's the future, how can I continue to adapt to change. There's barely any energy going on fighting internal battles, which means that all the energy is focused on the future and how I can adapt to that future. So for me, the speaking engagement, I'm really looking forward to having robots on stage. I'm looking forward to having augmented reality on stage, holographic projections, like those kinds of things, full bands, backing, and all of that kind of stuff. I'm excited about the technology that's coming versus scared of it or anything like that. I'm already thinking years ahead about how can I utilize that technology. I'm waiting for the technology to catch up to a point where I can actually use it on stage. And I was like, come on, technology, catch up. But that happens because of the ability to play in that space. And the ability to play in that space is because you've overcome, to me anyway, because you've overcome the internal barriers, the internal challenges that allowed you to spend more time on the things that actually matter versus repeating the same patterns over and over and over again. And, the whole definition of insanity, expecting a different result, right?
That's major. And guys, this is why, again, I'm a proponent of this. Surround yourself with people like Cameron, because if you can't do it on your own, guaranteed somebody who you surround yourself with will help you do it, and they'll give you the kick in the ass that you need. I did myself that ignited my self-development and self-improvement. There was somebody who did that for me early on. It wasn't just a tipping point. It was constant building.
Love it. And just get rid of the people in your lives that are just holding you down and slowing you down and getting in the way of where you actually want to go. Surround yourself, become that person that you're wanting to be. Surround yourself with people that are aligned to that and are aligned to the future of that. For me, I haven't got time for douchebags anymore. Just surround yourself with good quality people that are wanting to do good in the world. And it's just a beautiful place to be, because no one then is dragging you down, and anyone that does, like, get out. You don't deserve. You don't belong here. Positivity all around here. So and being challenged to continue to step up.
So what's your big picture vision down the line? Like, what is that for you?
I mean, the ultimate for me is to be a key player in the evolution of humanity and the well-being of our planet. that at a very, very macro level.
Yeah.
And I would say on the other end of that is, and I focus more on the positive now than I do on the, you call it a negative, I guess, is the last thing that I would want is, now I don't have kids, I don't know if I'll have kids, but I do have a niece and 2 nephews. The last thing that I would want is for them and other people of that generation to look at my life, look at my career and say, you knew something was up and you didn't do anything about it. You knew that the planet was suffering. You knew that people were suffering and you just sat back and did nothing. You're a coward. Yeah, that's the last thing that I would want is to.
Damn, man, your nieces and nephews are mean.
They're cool, man. They're like 1 year of age. Imagine, Uncle Karen.
I heard your jungle King of the Jungle story where you're doing your. By the way, your TEDx talk in Roma was incredible, guys.
Thanks,
if
man.
you want to check that out, just search Cameron Brown 10x.
Search what future are we creating? If you search what future are we creating, then and just put my name in there, then that'll come up on Google. So check that out. You guys will get to see that. But yeah, that's what it is for me. And so I remember end of 2015, 16, whatever it was. I'll have to go back and have a look through some of my notes, but maybe it was end of 2016. I set a vision for myself, a 3-year vision for myself, which had less objective things than I've ever had before. One of the things that I put on there was to create masterful works of art. And I put no attachment around of what that's going to be, because then I allowed my curiosity to go, well, I wonder what that's going to look like. I wonder what it could be. And it just so happened, when I set that, I didn't own a drone at the time. And yet I created one of the videos from last year, which was the video of showing the natural beauty of Colombia, reached like 800 and something thousand views now, organic views on Facebook now. And it was being used in documentaries and other things. That was a masterful work of art for me. I didn't even own a drone when I set that vision. Yeah. And so I think the key thing there is that set the piece out for yourselves where you have the opportunity and the ability to grow into that, because you've got current limits that are holding you back. And so rather than, there can be, I still set specific goals for 90-day projects and 12-month outcomes and stuff like that. But be curious about what it might actually look like, because it might be completely different and it might be something you haven't even thought of yet, like it has been for me. And now, for me going forward, the major focus for the next 12, 24 months especially is multi-sensory keynotes on stage in North America, especially in North America, where I've got a grand piano on stage, the utilization of storytelling videos with the music that I create, having people involved in different ways to help tell the stories on stage and have people experience things that are truly magical that they wouldn't be able to just get from watching a screen. So watch this space over the next 24 months for things like projected augmented reality and things like that within the talks.
Oh, it's getting crazy with augmented reality.
Totally. So exciting.
Look at Snapchat alone.
So exciting. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, me too, man. And I'm so excited to see you achieve the goal, which I know you will, of being a key player and impacting people in that way. And anything I can do to support that, I'm here, brother. And I really appreciate you doing this. How can people get into contact with you?
Yeah, 2 great ways. The website is thrivingcollective.com. And so check out there. There's plenty of stuff there, blogs and videos and all of that jazz and other information. And then the social handles is at Ask Cameron Brown, ASK Cameron Brown. And that's on all of the good ones. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever else there are. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. You use Instagram quite a bit.
Or
I use that a fair bit. So they're usually the full ones. LinkedIn I'm most on, because a lot of the clients and people that I have are in the corporate space and in the business space, running companies. So that's how they can get in touch.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate it. Guys, do not forget to subscribe. Please leave a review before you leave today. We'll see you next time.